What if I told you that most people don't survive a narcissist? And the reason isn't what you think. It's not strength, it's not stubbornness, and it's not sheer willpower. There's only one type of person who truly comes out unscathed, and it has everything to do with mindset. If you're ready to stop getting played and start protecting your mind and heart, hit subscribe and commit to seeing the truth. This isn't just survival, it's mastery over the psychological games others try to pull. Surviving a narcissist starts with emotional resilience, but not the kind most people imagine. It's not about being tough, stoic, or able to endure endless conflict without flinching. True resilience is internal. It's the ability to experience stress, manipulation, or provocation without losing your sense of self. A narcissist thrives on reactions. Anger, guilt, anxiety, or desperation fuel their control. If you can maintain equilibrium in the face of their tactics, you cut off the energy that keeps the dynamic alive. Emotional resilience allows you to observe without absorbing. You notice gaslighting, love bombing, and passive-aggressive attacks, but you don't internalize them. You recognize that their words and actions are more about their need for validation than your worth. This clarity creates a buffer, a psychological shield that protects you from being drawn into emotional spirals. Resilient individuals respond rather than react. They choose their actions consciously, not out of fear, anger, or compulsion to fix the situation. Resilience also involves recovery. Even if a narcissist triggers discomfort or insecurity, a resilient person processes the experience, reflects, and moves forward without lingering self-doubt. They understand that their emotional state is under their control, not dictated by someone else's manipulation. This inner stability allows them to set boundaries consistently and maintain perspective over time. Ultimately, survival isn't about enduring the narcissist's behavior indefinitely. It's about cultivating an inner foundation that the narcissist cannot shake. When you have that emotional resilience, their attempts to destabilize you lose potency, and you emerge from the relationship intact, clear-minded, and empowered. Self-awareness is a crucial trait that separates those who survive a narcissist from those who become trapped in cycles of manipulation. It's not just about knowing your own strengths or weaknesses. It's about understanding your emotional patterns, triggers, and blind spots so you can recognize when someone is exploiting them. Narcissists are experts at identifying vulnerabilities, whether it's a need for approval, fear of conflict, or a tendency to over-explain oneself. Without self-awareness, these tendencies can be leveraged against you, drawing you deeper into their control. A self-aware person can spot manipulation early. They notice subtle patterns, repeated gaslighting, inconsistent affection, passive-aggressive behaviors, or the push-pull dynamic that creates emotional dependency. Recognizing these patterns before they escalate gives you the power to respond intentionally rather than react emotionally. This awareness is like having a map through a minefield. You see where the traps are and know how to navigate safely. Self-awareness also fosters accountability without self-blame. You understand that your reactions are natural, but also know which boundaries you need to maintain to protect yourself. It allows you to differentiate between moments where empathy is appropriate and moments where disengagement is necessary. You can step back, reflect, and make decisions rooted in clarity rather than fear or attachment. Ultimately, it is self-awareness that allows survivors to maintain psychological sovereignty. By understanding themselves and the narcissist's patterns, they are able to avoid manipulation, enforce boundaries, and preserve their emotional energy. This conscious insight is a cornerstone of surviving a narcissist intact and unshaken. Boundaries are the foundation that determines whether someone survives a narcissist or becomes entangled in their manipulations. They are not merely rules or limits imposed on others. Boundaries are a declaration of self-respect and a protective mechanism that signals what behavior is acceptable and what is not. A narcissist will continually test these boundaries, pushing, probing, and sometimes violating them to see how much control they can exert. Those who survive understand that boundaries are non-negotiable. They are not subject to debate, negotiation, or compromise when it comes to their emotional and psychological safety. Maintaining strong boundaries requires both clarity and consistency. It means clearly knowing your values, limits, and deal breakers, and enforcing them without guilt or apology. Narcissists often exploit ambiguity, exploiting hesitation or uncertainty to gain leverage. Survivors are able to recognize attempts to manipulate or guilt them into bending their limits and respond firmly without being pulled into reactive patterns. This steadfastness diminishes the narcissist's ability to control, frustrates their attempts at dominance, and reduces emotional volatility in the relationship. Boundaries also function as a filter, determining how much of the narcissist's behavior you allow into your emotional space. By deciding in advance what is acceptable, survivors prevent themselves from being dragged into cycles of drama, anger, or over-identification with the narcissist's needs. Over time, strong boundaries create a psychological buffer that preserves emotional energy, enhances self-confidence, and provides the clarity needed to disengage safely when necessary. In short, boundaries are not a barrier to survival. They are the very mechanism that makes survival possible, transforming reactive vulnerability into conscious protection. Empathy is often the very trait that narcissists exploit, but survivors learn to wield it strategically rather than letting it become a vulnerability. A narcissist will test your capacity for understanding, compassion, and forgiveness, often pushing the limits to see how much they can take without consequence. Those who survive recognize these tests and respond not with blind empathy, but with measured discernment. They understand the difference between caring for someone and being manipulated by their emotions. Survivors know when to step back and disengage. They can empathize with the narcissist's behavior, understanding it stems from insecurity, fear, or a need for control, without absorbing it or letting it dictate their actions. This ability to hold empathy lightly without losing oneself prevents them from being dragged into reactive cycles. They feel compassion without surrendering authority over their own emotions. Empathy also serves as a tool for insight. By observing the narcissist's patterns with clarity, the survivor can anticipate manipulations, recognize triggers, and respond with strategic calm rather than impulsive reaction. They may acknowledge the narcissist's feelings or motivations without condoning harmful behavior, maintaining emotional distance while still understanding the dynamics at play. Ultimately, empathy in survivors is controlled, conscious, and discerning. It is not a vulnerability to be exploited, but a lens through which the relationship can be navigated safely. This measured approach allows them to protect themselves, preserve clarity, and avoid being ensnared in the narcissist's cycles of drama and control. Detachment from outcomes is a critical skill that allows survivors to navigate a narcissist without losing themselves. Most people become entangled in narcissistic dynamics because they are emotionally invested in a specific result, wanting the narcissist to apologize, change, or behave in ways that align with their expectations. Survivors, however, understand that attempting to control the narcissist or anticipate a particular outcome is futile. They focus instead on managing their own responses and maintaining internal stability. This detachment doesn't mean indifference or coldness. It means recognizing that the narcissist's behavior is beyond your control and that their reactions are a reflection of their needs, not your worth. By letting go of attachment to specific outcomes, survivors avoid the emotional roller coaster that keeps most people ensnared. They respond strategically rather than reactively, choosing actions based on self-preservation and clarity rather than a desire to elicit a particular response from the narcissist. Detachment also empowers survivors to disengage when necessary. When they see that the narcissist's manipulations will not yield a healthy resolution, they can step back without guilt or anxiety. They understand that maintaining their own emotional equilibrium is more important than convincing the narcissist to change. Ultimately, detachment from outcomes shifts the power dynamic. While the narcissist seeks to control and provoke, the survivor remains steady, unshaken, and autonomous. This psychological independence ensures that the narcissist cannot exploit emotional attachment as a tool for manipulation, which is essential for surviving and thriving beyond the relationship. Staying calm under provocation is one of the defining traits of someone who survives a narcissist. Narcissists thrive on emotional reactions. Anger, guilt, frustration, or anxiety fuel their sense of control and superiority. When a target reacts impulsively, they are drawn back into the cycle of manipulation, giving the narcissist exactly what they want. Survivors, however, learn to maintain composure even when provoked, recognizing that their emotional responses are the leverage the narcissist seeks. Calmness doesn't mean passivity. It means observing the tactics, understanding the intent, and choosing responses deliberately. By regulating their own emotions, survivors prevent the narcissist from dictating the tone of interactions. They can engage when necessary, respond strategically, or disengage entirely, all without being pulled into reactive patterns. This creates a psychological buffer, protecting their energy and clarity. Moreover, calmness under provocation allows for better decision-making. When emotions are high, perception becomes distorted, and boundaries may be compromised. Survivors who remain steady can evaluate the situation rationally, anticipate manipulations, and act in ways that preserve their autonomy. Their composure also signals to the narcissist that emotional control no longer lies in their hands, reducing the likelihood of successful manipulation over time. Ultimately, the ability to stay calm under provocation transforms interactions from battles into observations. The narcissist may escalate, push, or attempt to provoke, but a steady response diminishes their power. Emotional composure is not just a defensive strategy. It is a proactive tool that secures psychological safety and reinforces the survivor's resilience and autonomy. Survivors of narcissists rely heavily on reflection, learning, and strategic thinking to navigate the complex dynamics they face. Unlike those who react impulsively or emotionally, they use each interaction as information, analyzing patterns of manipulation, triggers, and behavioral cycles. This reflective approach allows them to anticipate the narcissist's tactics and make informed decisions about when to engage, disengage, or enforce boundaries. By processing experiences thoughtfully, they convert challenging encounters into lessons rather than letting them erode self-esteem. Strategic thinking also enables survivors to protect their emotional energy. They evaluate situations based on long-term outcomes rather than immediate emotional gratification, understanding that short-term reactions often play directly into the narcissist's hands. By planning their responses, they maintain control over their own behavior and reduce the likelihood of being caught in reactive loops of guilt, anger, or overcompensation. Learning from past interactions is another key aspect. Survivors recognize patterns such as gaslighting, love bombing, or withdrawal and adjust their strategies accordingly. Each experience strengthens their ability to maintain boundaries, detach from manipulative attempts, and respond with clarity and composure. Over time, this creates a self-reinforcing cycle. The more they observe and strategize, the more resilient they become, and the less power the narcissist holds over them. Ultimately, reflection, learning, and strategic thinking allow survivors to approach the relationship with awareness rather than emotion-driven impulsivity. These qualities are not about confrontation, they are about mastering one's own responses, preserving psychological safety, and navigating interactions in a way that ensures survival and long-term autonomy. Endurance in surviving a narcissist isn't about confrontation, aggression, or outlasting them through sheer willpower. It's about cultivating inner clarity, consistency, and self-possession over time. Those who truly endure do so because they have developed a strong internal compass that guides their decisions, actions, and emotional responses. They don't rely on external validation or reactions from the narcissist to define their sense of self. This form of endurance is quiet but powerful. It manifests in the ability to maintain boundaries, detach from manipulative attempts, and remain emotionally stable despite provocations. Survivors understand that the narcissist's behavior is cyclical and often predictable. By pacing themselves and responding strategically rather than reacting impulsively, they conserve energy and prevent the narcissist from destabilizing them. Over time, this consistent approach creates psychological distance that the narcissist cannot easily breach. Endurance also relies on reflection and self-awareness. Survivors continually learn from interactions, recognizing patterns and adjusting their strategies while keeping their focus on their own well-being. They maintain perspective, distinguishing between what they can control, their own behavior and emotional state, and what they cannot, the narcissist's actions or attempts at manipulation. Ultimately, the person who endures is not the loudest, the toughest, or the most aggressive. They survive because they possess inner clarity, steadfast boundaries, emotional intelligence, and the capacity for strategic detachment. Their endurance is about self-mastery, not confrontation, and it is this calm, deliberate, and reflective strength that allows them to navigate and ultimately outlast the narcissist unscathed. At the core of surviving a narcissist lies a paradox. It isn't about fighting harder, being tougher, or matching their intensity. Most people assume that strength and resilience come from confrontation or endurance in the face of chaos. But surviving a narcissist requires a very different kind of power, subtle, internal, and deliberate. The person who truly comes out intact is not defined by aggression or stubbornness, but by self-awareness, emotional clarity, and psychological sovereignty. Survivors recognize the patterns of manipulation early. They notice gaslighting, love bombing, provocation, and passive-aggressive behavior before it escalates. They maintain non-negotiable boundaries, protecting their emotional and psychological space with consistency and firmness. Empathy becomes a tool rather than a liability. They understand the narcissist's motives without absorbing the chaos or surrendering control of their own emotions. This measured empathy allows them to navigate the relationship strategically rather than reactively, and prevents them from being drawn into cycles of validation seeking or emotional drama. Detachment from outcomes is another defining trait. Survivors understand that the narcissist's behavior is beyond their control, and they prioritize maintaining calm and composure over attempting to influence or fix the other person. They remain reflective, learning from each encounter, analyzing patterns, and adjusting their strategies to protect themselves. Their endurance is not about stubbornness or confrontation, but about inner clarity, emotional resilience, and strategic foresight. Ultimately, survival is achieved through mastery of the self rather than domination of the narcissist. The person who survives possesses inner stability, psychological autonomy, and the ability to observe rather than react. They preserve their energy, maintain perspective, and refuse to participate in manipulative games. In the quiet strength of self-awareness and clarity, they emerge unshaken, empowered, and untouchable. The only type of person who can truly survive a narcissist